There's another military man who attended the late Queen's funeral today, the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt. Lord Dannatt, great to have you, because I can't even imagine what it was like to be actually at the funeral. We just heard from one of the speakers there, was clearly very moved. What was it like for you? This was your commander-in-chief, of course, for so long.
Well, Piers, of course, it was a huge privilege to be there. But, you know, I think the thing that was probably perhaps most significant, my wife and I were sitting in the nave. We were in the front row of the nave. But as the late Queen's coffin came by, only 2, 3, 4 feet away from one thought, this is now really serious. This is the end of her fantastic reign. And they just brought it home at that particular moment. I mean, the service was fantastic. The singing was wonderful. The Archbishop spoke well. The lessons were read well. But just that moment of the coffin passing by, my wife curtsied, I bowed. I mean, that's what we should do. We just suddenly both said afterwards, oh, that's the moment under our noses, as it were, in front of us. This wonderful 70-year reign has ended, but now we've got to look forward to the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at Buckingham Palace all day, and I felt that moment actually when the procession passed by the palace, and I looked behind me and I saw the hearse coming towards the end of the procession. So there'd been like a good 15, 20 minutes of procession first. And then suddenly the crowd went very quiet and you saw the hearse come. And then I just watched the hearse go round the corner of the big sort of centrepiece there and come right in front of the palace. I think we're looking at the images now. And I found that a really moving moment, because I suddenly realised that would be my last glimpse of the Queen that I would ever have. And I found that very moving, actually. And I think a lot of people have been quite surprised how emotional they felt about all this.
Piers, I think you're absolutely right. And those who then, whether they were present or watching on television, I think when you saw the shots of the committal service later on this afternoon and of the new king, and the national anthem was sung, you could just see his eyes welling up when he realised that, yes, this was the moment. His beloved mother, our beloved Queen, has now gone, and all the responsibilities of the kingdom now lie on his shoulders, and it weighed up. I think for all of us, at some point during the day, the point really came home that this wasn't just theatre, this wasn't just pageantry, this wasn't just what the UK does best, what Britain does best. This was real, it was personal, and it was the end of the second Elizabethan era. But I think we have to be positive. And I think the Archbishop's sermon was absolutely right. Hope is a very important part of today. Fantastic what Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has done, the leadership she's shown, the dedication to duty. But we move on. And we now have a new king. We've got a lot of difficulties in the country, energy crisis, cost of living crisis, new prime minister. We've got to move on. We've got to move forward. We've got to set our sights ahead of ourselves. But like this sort of ancient ploughmen who were ploughing their furrows, they picked something just ahead of them, and they drove their horses towards it, and that's the straight line that they took. We've got to take a straight line to better places. And frankly, we've got a new king, we've got a new prime minister. I'm apolitical, but we've just got to drive this country forward. There's so much opportunity here. Let's rejoice in what's happened in the past, but actually fix our energy and our hope on the future. This is a great country. It has been a great country, it is a great country, and it will continue to be a great country. We've all got to put our shoulders into the work.
Absolutely magnificently said. You're not available to join the cabinet, are you? Any capacity. We'll take you as anything, Lord Dannatt.
No, I will if I'm asked.
Well, you know what? We could do an awful lot worse than having someone with your attitude, because we need a bit of positivity and can-do mentality, and you were certainly like that when you ran the British Army. It's been a great honour to have you tonight on this very special occasion, given that you were there in your capacity as one of our finest soldiers. So thank you very much.
And Piers, thank you. Are we still on?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Yep. One of the lovely things was, as all the royal family came past, Prince Harry looked in our direction and said to my wife, "Hello, Pippa." Just wonderful that he was back. I just think Harry is great. I just hope he's got a role to play in our country in the future.
I mean, it is such a shame, isn't it, what's going on there? Because there's clearly this huge rift with the two brothers. There's a rift between King Charles and his son Harry. And at the moment, it seems quite deep-rooted. But you do get a sense that Harry, having been immersed back into his former life in the last 10 days, it would take a heart of stone, which I don't think he has, to not be personally affected by it in a way that may make him think, am I going the right way with my new life? You know, constantly attacking the family, the monarchy and so on. Is this really helping anybody?
Well, I think the events of the last few days must have had a significant effect on Prince Harry and his wife Meghan. I don't know what their private thought processes are, what their personal ambitions are. But what I do know absolutely is that Harry loves this country. He loved the armed forces. His time in the army, his 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and I was quite involved in both of those, were absolutely formative in his life. I wish him all the best. I wish Meghan all the best. But frankly, from my point of view, and I think the British Armed Forces point of view, and a veteran's point of view, we miss Harry. We love Harry. I don't know how the future's going to work out, but I hope he's got a role to play in this country in the future.
Well, I hope he was listening to that, because I think coming from you, that will mean a lot to him. You know, my brother-in-law actually taught him at Sandhurst and said he spoke very highly of him. Said he was an excellent soldier, as indeed William was, very popular with the other guys, and he feels very sad about it too.
Well, I persuaded Harry after his first tour in Afghanistan, when he wanted to go back there. I said, Harry, the only thing you can do is go back within the anonymity of a helicopter cockpit. And cut a long story short, he trained to be a helicopter pilot, and he was a good helicopter pilot. And on his weapons course, he was the top gun. So he's a top soldier, bless him. Such a great guy. And all the soldiers, all the veterans absolutely worship him. He has a significant role to play in this country. Somehow he and Meghan have got to find a way to balance their lives between whatever they want to do in the States, in California, but actually he has a role to play in this country. I know he can't be a part-time royal, but somehow there's got to be a role for him, because actually we need him here. A lot of people love him.
Do you know what I think he needs, Lord Dannatt?
And we miss him, frankly.
It's very interesting listening to you talk, because you know him well, and you know what he feels, obviously, about a lot of the military part of his life. I think maybe he needs a trip from you. Maybe get on a plane to California and go and talk some sense into him.
Well,
the weather's nice this time of year.
But yeah, absolutely right. Well, yeah, maybe. Well, Piers, thank you for the suggestion. If you'd like to send me a ticket, yeah, off we go, and let's see what happens. But actually, it's not for me to determine his life and his family's life. He's got his own issues. But all I'd say is that he has played a significant role in this country. I hope he continues to find a way to play a significant role in this country within the sort of wider environment of the royal family. But it was just great to see him here today. And yeah, well, you know, been a fantastic day, a tragic day, a sad day, but we have to move forward. And King Charles III, God save the King.
Lord Dannatt, what a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Piers.